You want to go back to the phone lines, talk to Stephen in Everett, Washington. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, Hank. Thanks for taking my call.
Pleasure.
My question is in Revelation chapter 13, verse 18.
Yeah.
Where it says, "Here is wisdom, let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man." And I'm wondering, 666, it says to calculate the number, and I've heard that Hebrew numbers represent letters, and is he telling you that you can calculate who this man is by these numbers?
Yeah, exactly. Calculate has to do with numbers, and therefore what you have is an admonition to insight. And if you have insight, if you have wisdom, then you can calculate the number of the beast, for it is man's number. His number is 666. And therefore, through a practice known as 𝘏𝘓𝘳, you can calculate the number of the beast. John identifies both an individual and an institution that represent the ultimate personification of evil. In other words, this is the archetypal Antichrist, and he refers to this archetypal Antichrist as a beast who deceived the inhabitants of the earth. And he's drawing on Daniel's apocalyptic depiction of evil world powers, and he is describing an emperor in his own epoch of time who arrogantly sets himself and his empire against God. He persecutes the saints, he violates the commandments, and through a long litany of disgusting demonstrations of depravity, not only says that he is God, but he is to be worshipped as God. And so John is telling first century readers that if they have wisdom and insight, they are able to identify who this beast is. So obviously this is not about the 21st century. This is John telling first century Christians that they can identify a beast in their midst.
Okay. I just was, wondering if it was going to be in our day, because I've read in Revelation.
Well, no, how could it be in our day if John's telling his readers that they could calculate the number of the beast and the number of his name with wisdom and insight? I mean, he's not fooling them. He's telling them they can do that. Not only that, but I think it's very important that as you read Revelation, you read it literally. When Jesus says that the looming apocalypse will take place and that the time is near, it's contrary to all decency and propriety to contend dogmatically that his words are meant to convey an event that's going to take place in our epoch of time. Jesus is not linguistically challenged when he says that this must soon take place and the time is near. It's talking about something that's going to happen in their epoch of time, not our epoch of time. If it was going to happen in our epoch of time, Jesus Christ would have been able to communicate that clearly.
Is Revelation chapter 17, verse 10 and 11 talking about the same person? Because it's talking about 5 have fallen, 1 is, and the other has not yet come. So wouldn't that mean that when John was alive, that this other one hasn't come yet? Is something in the future?
Yes, he is talking about something that has already happened. He's talking about something that is presently happening and something that will happen later on. And this is also communicated in Revelation chapter 1, the same idea. Remember where Jesus says, "Therefore, write what you have seen, what is now, and what will take place later. The mystery of the 7 stars you saw in my right hand and of the 7 golden lampstands is this." The 7 stars are the angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 lampstands are the 7 churches. And remember, Revelation is 7 letters to 7 churches in the epicenter of a Caesar cult. And in those letters, the believers are called to be faithful and fruitful. They are going to suffer for a short time, but they're also going to experience an eternal vindication. For further information on this, I've written about this in various places, and let me give you that information quickly. I've written about this in the Complete Bible Answer Book Collector's Edition, which is available through the Ministry of the Christian Research Institute. On a more full-orb fashion, I've written about it in my book, The Apocalypse Code. Find out what the Bible really says about the end times and why it matters today. Also, find out how to read the book of Revelation for all it's worth. Revelation is not a book of riddles that originates from a shallow post-Christian mind. It's a book of symbols that are rooted in Old Testament history. And the reason we have difficulty understanding them is because we don't know our Bibles. John reminds us repeatedly that his prophetic words are in keeping with the words of the Old Testament prophets. The testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, and to replace the Messiah with newspaper eschatology in our day is not only bad theology, but it's blasphemous. John presents the Messiah to his readers in various ways, and we should understand what he's talking about, because the way in which he's representing Messiah and the epoch of time in which the beast would war against the Lamb is rooted in the language of the Old Testament. So Revelation is not only an unfolding, but it is also a linguistic matrix that comes from Old Testament writings. There are 404 verses in the book of Revelation, so Revelation becomes a pretty easy book to memorize. It's fairly short. 278 of those verses are direct or indirect allusions to Old Testament passages. So again, it becomes memorable because you already know the Old Testament, and therefore you're not confused at all as to what is actually being communicated. Now, there are things in Revelation that John knows you're not going to get, and then he gives you an actual definition of what he means. Bowls full of incense. They're the prayers of the saints. We might miss that unless John explains it, so John actually explains it to us.